Hello everyone. Last time we have stopped here. Now we are beginning here. So structural and functional division of the nervous system. The structural division, as we have seen last time, we do have two type of divisions. The first division is central nervous system. The second is peripheral nervous system. So the central nervous system is a command center of nervous system. So command center of nervous system that interprets and processes nervous information. So interpreting, processing any nerve information is in the central nervous system. This organs responsible for this function is brain and spinal cord. So the peripheral nervous system projects this information to the CNS and receives information from the CNS, mediates some reflexes, and this organ is responsible for this function is nerves and ganglia. Nerves are cranial nerves, 12 cranial nerves and 31 pair of spinal nerves. Ganglia means cell body of the neuron outside the central nervous system. So this is brain. This one is spinal cord. So in general, these two organs are considered as CNS. So this is nerves which arise from spinal cord is known as nerves, or from the brain, like medulla oblongata, pons, and midbrain, like that, are known as cranial nerves. So cranial nerves plus spinal nerves are nerves. This is ganglia. And also this is ganglia. So ganglia plus nerves are peripheral nervous system. Peripheral plus CNS are nervous system in general. So nervous system can be divided into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system is brain and spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system have also two divisions: somatic nervous system, this is voluntary; autonomic nervous system, this is involuntary. So somatic nervous system have afferent and efferent division. Afferent means sensory, efferent means motor. Autonomic nervous system have two divisions: afferent is sensory, efferent is motor. Efferent nerves of autonomic nervous system divide into two: parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic is produced or stimulated for relaxation or normal lifestyle or normal activity. In the case of sympathetic nervous system is produced in response to fight or flight. So division of nervous system, the one is structural division, we have seen. The second is functional division. So we can divide sensory input and motor output. So sensory or afferent signals pick up by sensory receptors carried by nerve fibers of PNS to the CNS. So why we are input? Because carry nerve fibers of peripheral nervous system to the CNS nervous system. So they have sensory receptors in our body. So sensory means nerve means afferent. A motor or efferent nerves are signals that are carried away from CNS. So motor means output. So it's a signals that is carried by nerve fibers from CNS to the outside of the body, so away from the CNS or central nervous system. So the motor, one of the function of motor is innervate or stimulate muscles and glands. Muscles and glands known as effector organs. So the other division is nerves are divided according to regions they serve. So somatic body region and visceral body region. So somatic body region means a region which is we can control. Okay, we can control, is voluntary area. But visceral body region are the internal parts of the body, like GI, respiratory system. Internal visceral organs are known as visceral body region. The other is the results in 4 main subdivisions. So results in main 4 subdivisions. So somatic, sensory, visceral, sensory. So somatic, motor, visceral, motor. So somatic motor, somatic sensory, visceral sensory, visceral motor. So that means each body region have also sensory and motor innervation. So the best diagram is here. For revision purpose, CNS includes brain and spinal cord. This is peripheral nervous system, cranial nerves and spinal nerves. So there is communication between central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Impulses or nerve informations are carried towards CNS and peripheral nerves. That means there is communication between the peripheral nervous system and central nervous system due to this arrow, as this arrow shows. So sensory or afferent division and motor or efferent division. Sensory or afferent division divide into 2: somatic sensory and visceral sensory. Somatic sensory means that we can divide somatic sensory into general somatic sensory and special somatic sensory. General somatic sensory responsible for touch, pain, pressure, vibration, temperature, proprioception in skin, body oil and limbs. Special somatic sensory are responsible for hearing, equilibrium, vision and smell. And also visceral sensory, also having general visceral sensory and special visceral sensory. Special visceral sensory is taste, and general visceral sensory are like stretch in the stomach, pain, temperature, chemical changes, irritation in the viscera, nausea, hunger. These are detected by general visceral sensory. The other is motor or afferent division, having 3 divisions. The first is somatic motor, the second is branchial motor, the third is visceral motor. So general somatic motor includes motor innervation of all skeletal muscles. Motor innervation of all skeletal muscles except pharyngeal arch muscles, because pharyngeal arch muscles are supplied by branchial motor. So except the branchial motor, all skeletal muscles are innervated by general somatic motor. Whereas pharyngeal arch muscles are supplied by branchial motor. The other is the visceral motor, general visceral motor. This general visceral motor innervation of smooth muscle, cardiac muscle and glands. This is equivalent to autonomic nervous system. By the way, visceral motor or general visceral motor is innervates, give motor innervation for smooth muscle and cardiac muscle, so and glands. So we say, if you say general visceral motor is equivalent to autonomic nervous system. So general visceral motor or autonomic nervous system divided into 2: parasympathetic division and sympathetic division. So this is good revision for CNS. Next is terminology. Let me give you some terminologies. As I told you before, we have 6 types of neuroglial cells, that is astrocytes and ependymal cells. Astrocytes, ependymal cells, microglial cells, oligodendrocyte, Schwann cells, and all these are and astrocytes. So all these are central, glial cell, or we can say neuroglial cells. So from that, the four are central, found in central nervous system, like microglial cells, ependymal cells, astrocytes, and oligodendrocytes. So these are found in central nervous system, but the latter two are found in peripheral nervous system, like Schwann cells and satellite cells. So they are 6. So oligodendrocytes are responsible for providing Meninges in CNS, whereas Schwann cells or neurolomocytes are responsible for to produce Meninges for peripheral nervous system. As we see last time, oligodendrocytes means it is found in central nervous system, and it is gives one oligodendrocyte gives Meninges for many axons at the same time. So, but in Schwann cells, they are found in peripheral nervous system, but one Schwann cell is responsible for one axon. So another name of Schwann cell is neurolomocyte. The other is if you say clusters of cell body in CNS is nuclei, clusters of cell body in peripheral nervous system is said to be ganglia. And the bundle of axon is in CNS tractus. The bundle of axon in peripheral nervous system is said to be nerves. So axon in central nervous system is tract, and peripheral nervous system is nerve. Both cell body in central nervous system is nuclei, in peripheral nervous system is ganglia. So another is neuroanatomical directions. As we know, there are in introduction part we have seen different directions and direction terminologies and terms, but in some deviations, some terminology also deviate from that we know in the introduction part. So that, but in CNS we will see some terminologies which is important for to understand the anatomy of the nervous system. So previously, dorsal means, as we know, dorsal means to the back, ventral means to the front. But in this case, dorsal means superior, ventral means inferior. So if this is brain or CNS, toward the front is anterior, toward the back is posterior, toward to the upper or superior is dorsal, toward the inferior or toward inferior or below is considered to be ventral, as arrows shows that. So this is the same thing, but for spinal cord, toward upper or superior is considered as anterior, inferior toward the caudal is posterior, and toward the back is dorsal, toward the front is ventral, and when you say medial, toward the center, when you say lateral, away from the center. So these are some terminologies important to understand the brain. So this is for spinal cord, this is for brain. So this is arrows which indicate the directions. Okay, now we are starting brain. From dorsal to the ventral, there are four main divisions. So dorsal to ventral in this context, from dorsal to the ventral, from upper to the inferior. So from dorsal to ventral, there are four main divisions. One is cerebrum, the other is Diencephalon, the other is Brainstem, the other is Cerebral. So from dorsal to ventral, we can count Cerebrum, Diencephalon, Brainstem, and Cerebellum. So if you to understand this, this is Cerebrum, the largest. So this is cerebral hemisphere. But this center, the middle part of the brain, this one is considered as Diencephalon. So this is known as Brainstem. That means midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata is considered as brainstem, whereas the posterior section is this one is considered as cerebellum. So these are so when to view clearly, we indicated outside the picture. So when we magnify this picture, it shows just like this. So these are by the way, these are midbrain, these are pons, these are medulla oblongata. The three terms, midbrain, pon, and medulla oblongata, is considered as brainstem. But above this area is known as diencephalon. Diencephalon have thalamus, hypothalamus, and epithalamus. So this is thalamus, by the way. This is thalamus. This is hypothalamus. This is pituitary gland. So this area is known as diencephalon. Let me see one by one. Now we are starting cerebrum. The largest portion of the brain is known as cerebrum. Cerebrum is divided into left and right hemisphere. This left and right hemisphere is separated by longitudinal cerebral fissure, which goes down to the corpus callosum. This means that this is cerebral hemisphere. This is cerebral hemisphere. This is right cerebral hemisphere. This is left cerebral hemisphere. So based on anatomical, this is left cerebral hemisphere, this is right cerebral hemisphere. This fissure is longitudinal cerebral fissure. This fissure is divide the two cerebral hemispheres. This is corpus callosum. So this is, by the way, it's divide. This section is towards it continues from cerebral longitudinal cerebral fissure. So this is corpus callosum. Corpus callosum. So the other is we can divide the brain into gray matter and white matter. Gray matter forms the outer cortex and internal clusters of nuclei. By the way, all the outer section is outer cortex is gray matter, but some ganglia or nuclei is found. Some nuclei is found in cluster on the center of the brain. So white matter is nerve tract, nerve fibers. So connect the cortex and the nuclei to each other and other parts of the brain and spinal cord. That means white matter are nerve fibers or nerve tracts connects the cortex and the nuclei, and nuclei to nuclei and other parts of the brain and spinal cord. So these two important sections. By the way, in general, the outer is gray matter, the inner is white matter. This is reverse for spinal cord. The inner is gray matter, the outer is white matter for spinal cord. So each cerebral hemisphere has three surfaces, like supralateral surface, medial surface, and inferior surface. And we would have three poles: frontal pole, temporal pole, and occipital pole, and five borders, mainly two borders. There are two borders. So let us see the cerebral hemisphere. We will see what we are listing now. Before that, to give some hint about the gray matter and white matter, this is sectioned at the cerebellum. So cerebellum and some parts of pons. This is sectioned by medulla oblongata. So this is spinal cord. This is diencephalon part, brainstem. So this outer area, which seems like pink, this outer area is known as gray cortex or gray matter. this inner area is also gray matter. This inner one is gray matter, is the outer one is gray matter, but this white, the middle one, is considered as white matter. Considered as white matter. So this is the white matter. So in the case of spinal cord, outer is white matter. Outer is white matter. The inner is gray matter. The inner is gray matter. This is central cavity. This is central cavity. So the inner is gray matter. The outer is white matter. This is in the brainstem. But this is also in the case of central nervous system. In the case of cerebrum, the outer is gray matter. The inner is white matter. Some inner part is found gray matter. The other is surfaces. We have, as we have mentioned, supralateral or lateral surface, medial surface, and inferior surface. Inferior surface. So the poles are anteriorly frontal pole and temporal pole. Posteriorly there is occipital pole. There is occipital pole. Borders are 5 borders. 2 are more important. Supromedial or superior border extends from frontal to occipital. Infralateral or inferior border extends from temporal to occipital. So if this is the brain, this is the temporal pole, this is the frontal pole, this is the occipital pole, this is the occipital pole, temporal pole, frontal pole. When we see this is a medial surface, the inferior one is inferior surface, whereas supralateral surface means this one. This one is supralateral, superolateral surface, medial surface, and the below one is inferior surface. This is frontal lobe. This is central sulcus. Central sulcus divides to gyruses. This is postcentral gyrus. This is precentral gyrus. And also this is the parental lobe. This is the occipital lobe. The fissure between parental lobe and occipital lobe is parento-occipital sulcus. Or medial surface of parento-occipital sulcus is this one. And also this one is lateral sulcus. This one is lateral sulcus. And this is transverse fissure which divides cerebrum from the occipital lobe. And this is pons, this is medulla oblongata, this is spinal cord. Now let me introduce you about what is gyrus means and what is sulcus means. So by the way, this is gray matter or cortex. The inner one is deep sulcus. This is white matter. This is gray matter. So the gray matter, this is invaginatus, just like this. So this one is known as fissure. This one is known as fissure. Deep sulcus is fissure, but this one is sulcus. But to compare sulcus and gyrus, this one is gyrus, this one is sulcus. So the deep one, the fissure is known as sulcus. The outer or the fold one is gyrus. So this is gyrus, this is sulcus. But sulcus and fissure is the same, but the deeps is some their differences. The deeps, so this is white matter, outer is gray matter. This is cerebrum, by the way. Gyrus is now used for outward, but folded inward is known as sulcus. This is corpus callosum. This is cingulate gyrus. The all area, all are we have seen. Okay, this is calcarean sulcus. Calcarean sulcus. This is para-hippocarpal gyrus. This is known as uncus. This is temporal lobe. This is olfactory tract or this is olfactory bulb. This is olfactory tract, which is found. It is cranial nerve wall, so which is found on the central on the cerebrum. So used for smell. Okay, used for smell. Now let us repeat what we have seen here. So sulci and fissures of cerebrum. Fissures of cerebrum. The first one is longitudinal cerebral fissure. This is longitudinal cerebral fissure found between the cerebral hemisphere. Yes, this is between left and right cerebral hemisphere. The second type of fissure is known as transverse cerebral fissure. Transverse cerebral fissure is found between the cerebellum and cerebrum. The cerebrum and cerebellum. That means between the cerebellum and the occipital lobe of the cerebrum. So this large fissure is known as transverse cerebral fissure. Transverse cerebral fissure. The other is central sulcus. Central sulcus. The other name of central sulcus is fissure of Rolando. Fissure of Rolando. Central sulcus is the best. By the way, central sulcus is the best landmark. Central sulcus is a very important location to show about the region of motor and sensory areas, or which is separates two important gyruses, that is known as precentral gyrus and postcentral gyrus. So please keep in your mind this sulcus. So central sulcus is separates the frontal lobe from parental lobe. That means the first function is central sulcus is separates frontal lobe from the parental lobe. Frontal lobe from parental lobe. Where is it? Yeah, this is central sulcus. This is central sulcus. So this is temporal lobe. This is temporal lobe. This is parental lobe. So the sulcus which separates frontal lobe and parental lobe is known as central sulcus. Central sulcus. So the other is important landmark of cerebral cortex, because the motor cortex precentral gyrus lies anteriorly and sensory cortex or postcentral gyrus lies posteriorly. Yeah, this is known as precentral gyrus. This is postcentral gyrus. Precentral gyrus is the motor cortex. Postcentral gyrus is sensory cortex. So central sulcus separates both precentral gyrus and postcentral gyrus. Precentral gyrus is found anteriorly. Postcentral gyrus is found posteriorly. Yeah, we have seen it. So the other is lateral sulcus. The lateral sulcus separates frontal and temporal lobes. Frontal and temporal lobes. So lateral sulcus is this one. Separates. This is separates the temporal. This is temporal. This is temporal. This is frontal. This is parental. So separates frontal and this is frontal. This is temporal lobes. So this sulcus is known as lateral sulcus. The other is parento-occipital sulcus. So parento-occipital sulcus is separates the parental lobe from occipital lobe. Parental lobe from occipital lobe. So this is parental lobe. This is occipital lobe. This fissure is known as parento-occipital sulcus. So the other is calcarine sulcus. This is found in the occipital lobe. This is found in the occipital lobe. Calcarine is found. This is on the occipital lobe. On the occipital lobe. Yeah, this is calcarine sulcus. So found on the occipital lobe. Calcarine sulcus. The other is other sulci are precentral sulcus and postcentral sulcus. Precentral sulcus is in front of central sulcus. Postcentral sulcus is behind central sulcus. Okay, we have seen it. By the way, precentral sulcus means a sulcus in front of central sulcus. Postcentral sulcus is a sulcus behind the central sulcus. Let me show you. This is central sulcus. This is central sulcus. This is precentral sulcus. This is postcentral sulcus. This is postcentral sulcus. So this is gyri of insula. This inner part is when you separate frontal lobe from temporal lobe is insula or gyri of insula. Is very important section. this is gyrus, this is sulcus, this is fissure. So yeah, gyri. Now gyri of cerebrum, we have seen sulcuses or fissures. Now gyri of cerebrum. What are gyrus? The first is precentral gyrus, postcentral gyrus, superior temporal gyrus, inferior temporal gyrus. Precentral gyrus found between central and precentral sulci. Between central and precentral sulci or sulcus. So between this is known as gyrus or precentral gyrus. It is a motor area, okay, controls motor activities. Postcentral gyrus is between central sulcus and postcentral sulcus. It is a sensory area, somatosensory area, somatosensory area. So the gyrus, this is precentral gyrus, this is postcentral gyrus. So found between this and this sulcus. This one also between this and this sulcus. So this is precentral sulcus, this is central sulcus. In between there is precentral gyrus. This is central sulcus, this is postcentral sulcus. In between postcentral gyrus, postcentral gyrus. So the other superior temporal gyrus between lateral and superior temporal sulcus. Inferior temporal gyrus is found between inferior temporal sulcus and inferolateral border. So yeah, main lobes of cerebral hemisphere. We do have 4 main lobes of cerebral hemisphere. Sometimes insula is considered as fifth. So 4 lobes of cerebrum is the first one is the first and the largest of all lobes is known as frontal lobe. This is anterior to central sulcus and superior to lateral sulci. This means that this is frontal lobe. It is found anterior to this is central sulcus and above this one lateral sulcus, okay, above or superior to lateral sulcus. So the other is the best picture is here. So this is all this is known as frontal lobe. Let me show you. This is parental lobe, this is temporal lobe, this is occipital lobe. It's differentiates by color. This is cerebrum. So the second one is parental lobe. Parental lobe is this one. So parental lobe related to internal aspects of posterior and superior part of the parental bone related with posterior and superior part of parental bone. So parental lobe is associated with parental bone. So these are parental lobe. This is parental lobe. This is parental lobe, and this one. The second one is the third one is known as temporal lobe. Temporal lobe lies inferior to lateral sulci. This is, by the way, this is temporal lobe. This is lateral sulci. So places structures below the lateral sulci is known as temporal lobe. The other is occipital lobe. Occipital lobe is relatively small and located posterior to parento-occipital sulci. Important because it contains visual area. By the way, visual center is found on the occipital lobe. This is the occipital lobe. This area is occipital lobe. So primary visual area is found on the occipital lobe. So vision side is found on the occipital lobe. So insula, it is located within the lateral sulcus, deep structure. Yeah, as we have seen before, insula is found in this structure. So we have to see the insula. We have to separate the frontal lobe from the temporal lobe. So insula is another important structure. In the temporal lobe, primary auditory area is found there. Hearing is found on the temporal lobe. So this is all about the lobes. The other is internal structures of the cerebral hemisphere. When we see internal structure of the now we are still we are observing this outer external structure. So when we see the internal structure, we will see gray matter and white matter. Gray matter on the outer surface as cerebral cortex and deeply as basal ganglia. By the way, in the cerebrum, gray matter found mainly in the outer surface as cerebral cortex, but deeply we will found as basal ganglia. Deeply, we will find it also. We will get it also in the deep area. So white matter is consists of 3 groups of nerve fibers. As we have seen, white matter is nerve fibers or nerve tracts, which is found on the inner side of the cerebrum. So we can divide into group of nerves or bundles, into 3 group of nerves or bundles. The first nerve bundle is known as projection fiber. The second is association fiber. The third is commissural fiber. When we see projection fibers are connect cerebral cortex with the lower part of the brain and spinal cord. So projection fibers arise from the cerebrum and or cortex, then they will move downward and to the lower part of the brain and the spinal cord. So it's important for communication between us ascending tract and descending tract. So an example is pyramidal tract. The other is association fiber. Association fiber connects the gyri of the same hemisphere, meaning these association fibers are connect one side of the left cerebral hemisphere to the other side of the left cerebral hemisphere. An example is uncinate bundle connect frontal lobe of its pole with temporal lobe. So frontal lobe and temporal lobe of the same cerebral hemisphere, maybe the left cerebral hemisphere or right cerebral hemisphere. The other is commissural fibers. Commissural fibers connect the 2 sides of cerebral hemisphere. The 2 sides means commissural fibers are connect the left cerebral hemisphere with the right cerebral hemisphere. An example is corpus callosum. Let me show you in picture. So after section you will get it just like this. So this is association fiber. Connect one side of the neuron, one side of the cerebral hemisphere to the same side of the other cerebral hemisphere. So maybe the frontal lobe to the temporal lobe. So these are known as association fibers. So the other is projection fibers. Projection fibers are this one. Arise from the cortex area and moves downward to the lower part of the brain and the spinal cord. These are tracts like pyramidal tracts. The third one is that commissural fiber. Commissural fiber is found on the corpus callosum here. So this is a cross section, cut section. This the green one is cut section. So these fibers are attached to or connected to the other side of cerebral hemisphere. Maybe this is left cerebral hemisphere with right cerebral hemisphere. So association fiber, projection fiber, and commissural fiber. These 3 fibers are known as white matter. So now brain have 4 lobes, main 4 lobes. But we can classify the lobes also into different areas: area 1, area 2, area 3, area 4, area 5, area 41, area 42, area 17, different areas. So for instance, area 1, area 2, area 3 are, it is known as primary somatosensory cortex. So this area is also somatosensory association area, and together known as somatic sensation. Gestatory cortex, here is gestatory cortex. So this is responsible for taste. This is responsible for somatic sensation. So this is wrinkles area. This is wrinkles area. This area. The other is general interpretation area. So general interpretation area is this area is general interpretation area. This is wrinkles area, and this is area 17. Area 17 is known as primary visual cortex. This is important for vision, and also area 19 and 18 is known as visual association area. So these areas are important for vision. The other is auditory association area. This is auditory association area. The other is this one. This area is known as primary auditory area. So primary auditory area and auditory association area is known as used for hearing. So this is prefrontal cortex. This area is known as prefrontal cortex, and solving complex multitask problems. And this area is used for working memory, for object and recall tasks. This is Broca's area. This is for speech. And executive area for task management. This area is used for executive area for task management. So this is working memory for special tasks, skilled tasks, spatial tasks, partial tasks. And the other is frontal eyelid. This is frontal eyelid area. The other is premotor cortex. This is motor cortex. This is premotor cortex. This is primary motor cortex. This is premotor cortex. So this is all about the region, the areas of specific areas of the region, what responsible for. So if you just section it, this area is known as corpus callosum. This area is used for area for mentalization. This is prefrontal cortex. Orbitofrontal cortex is this one. Olfactory tract is this one. Bulb is this one. It's the olfactory nerve used for smell. This is temporal lobe. So olfactory areas is this one. Uncus is this one, and parahippocarpal gyrus is this one. This is used for storage. And calcarine sulcus is this one. So all we have seen. So yeah, when we see structures and function of cerebral cortex is divided into sensory areas, association areas, and motor areas. So when we see sensory areas, primary somatosensory cortex, primary visual cortex, primary auditory cortex, gustatory cortex, vestibular cortex, and olfactory cortex. Primary somatosensory cortex is processes sensory input from general somatic senses like touch, pain, pressure, and temperature, or proprioception. Primary visual cortex processes sensory information from the retina, since it is visual. The other is primary auditory cortex processes sensory information from the cochlea. Gustatory or taste cortex is process taste stimuli from the tongue. And vestibular or equilibrium cortex process sensory input from vestibular apparatus. And olfactory processes smell. Or these are areas for sensory areas. These are their functions. Okay, these are their functions. The second type of area is known as association area. Association area is divided into multiple areas. The one is somatosensory association cortex, visual association area, auditory association area, anterior association area, prefrontal cortex, posterior association area, limbic association area. The somatosensory association cortex integrates different sensory inputs from somatosensory cortex to understand sensations. And visual association area processes visual information by analyzing color, form, and movement. Auditory association area identifies sound and memories of past sounds. Auditory anterior association area or prefrontal cortex integrates input from all other association areas to plan and initiate motor responses. Performs cognitive function, thinking, perceiving, internationally remembering information. Posterior association area integrates input from somatosensory, visual, and auditory association areas, creates spatial awareness of the body, performs language and comprehension, and analysis. The other is limbic association area. This integrates input from other cortical areas to form memory, guides emotion, influences motor responses. So the third type of area is motor area: primary motor cortex, premotor cortex, frontal A field, and Broca's area. So primary motor cortex is controls voluntary motor movements. Premotor cortex controls complex motor movements involving sensory feedback, planning movements. Control frontal A field is controls voluntary movements of the eyes. Broca's area controls speech production. So primary motor cortex, premotor cortex, frontal A field, and Broca's area is under motor areas. So cerebral wire matter have three fibers: commissural fiber, association fiber, projection fiber. Commissural fiber connects the corresponding cortexes of the two hemispheres. Association fiber connects the cortex of different parts of the same hemisphere. This is two hemispheres. And projection fiber connects the cortex to more caudal parts of the cellness. Deep cerebral gray matter is ganglia. So basal ganglia and basal forebrain nuclei. Basal ganglia control movements in conjunction with motor cortex. Corpus striatum, caudate nucleus, putamen, globus pallidus. This is a type of ganglia, basal ganglia. This is types of basal ganglia. The other is basal forebrain nuclei. Perform major role in arousal, learning, memory, motor control, rich in cholinergic fibers. They are septum, horizontal and diagonal bands of Broca, and basal nucleus of Maynard. So this is about the deep cerebral gray matter. Now we have completed or finished about the brain, the cerebrum. Now we start the second part of the brain. It's known as diencephalon. Diencephalon is the part or structure that of the brain that's found between brainstem and cerebrum. So this is cerebrum. This is a brainstem. So this middle part is known as diencephalon. Diencephalon is the main component. So the main components of diencephalon is thalamus 1, hypothalamus 2, epithalamus 3. So thalamus is this area is thalamus. This dot is interthalamic adhesion. This is hypothalamus. So this area is known as epithalamus. So this is pineal gland, the parts of the epithalamus. This is known as anterior commissure. This is optic chiasma. This is pituitary gland. So this is mammary body. This is pons. This is middle oblongata. This is spinal cord. This is cerebrum. This is choroid plexus. That is produced by ependymal cells. This is fourth ventricle. This is airborne vitae. This is cerebral aqueduct, which is found in the midbrain. So this is corporal lumina is found on this area. So this is midbrain. The other is this is posterior. This is posterior commissure. This is anterior commissure. This area is known as the third ventricle, which is found in the thalamus. This is choroid plexus, which secretes cerebrospinal fluid. This is fornix. This is corpus callosum, and this is cerebral hemisphere. Septum pellucidum is this one, and interventricular foramen is this one. Interventricular foramen means a foramen which connects the third ventricle with the lateral ventricle. So cavity within the diencephalon is the third ventricle. So the diencephalon is here. This is known as the third ventricle, which is important for movement of cerebrospinal fluid. The other is this is brainstem. before that, let us end about this diencephalon structures. This is their function. This structure, thalamus or thalamic nuclei, is used for process and release information to the cerebral cortex. Hypothalamus functions as the main visceral control center, involved with control of autonomic nervous system, control of emotional responses, regulation of body temperature, hunger, thirst sensation, control of behavior, regulation of sleep-wake cycles, control of the endocrine system, formation of memory, and epithalamus or pineal gland used for secretes melatonin, which induces sleep. Melatonin is secreted by pinealocyte cells of pineal gland. So melatonin is important for induce sleep, but serotonin is for also to induce awake, to make alert. To be alert is important for serotonin. Melatonin is produced by pinealocyte cells of the pineal gland. Having this area, so now the second section is the third section is brainstem. As we have seen, so brainstem is includes midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. So midbrain, this area is known as midbrain. Midbrain is having different nucleus: lateral geniculate nucleus, medial geniculate nucleus are found on the and the trochlear nerve or cranial nerve 4, and superior cerebral peduncle is found on the midbrain. Similarly, corpora quadrigemina is contains superior colliculus and inferior colliculus. This is also found on the midbrain. The other is pons. Pons is this area is known as pons. The pons middle cerebral peduncle is found in the pons. By the way, superior cerebral peduncle is connects midbrain with cerebellum. Middle cerebral peduncle is connects pons with cerebellum, and inferior cerebral peduncle is connects medulla oblongata with cerebellum. So inferior cerebral peduncle is a part of medulla oblongata. And facial nerve 7, cranial nerve 7, vestibulocochlear nerve, cranial nerve 8, glossopharyngeal nerve, cranial nerve 9, vagus nerve, cranial nerve 10, accessory nerve, cranial nerve 11, and also and hypoglossal nerve is found on the medulla oblongata. Okay, found in the medulla oblongata section. All these are their roots. So this is anterior wall of fourth ventricle. By the way, fourth ventricle is anteriorly bordered by pons, posteriorly by cerebellum, inferiorly by medulla oblongata. This is choroid plexus. This is fourth ventricle. This is posterior median sulcus. And also this is fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus nucleuses. So for all cranial nerves, the nucleus are found here. So now brainstem is upward continuation of the spinal cord. It includes midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata from superior to inferior. So midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. So upward continuation of spinal cord. Upward continuation of spinal cord. So this is dorsal view. This is dorsal view. So we will later others that so brainstem contains the nuclei of the last 10 cranial nerves. So cranial nerve is 12. Brainstem contains the last 10 cranial nerves, but the first 2 cranial nerves are found on the cerebrum. But 10 cranial nerves are found on the brainstem. So the first 2 cranial nerve 1 and 2, like olfactory and optic nerve, is found on the cerebral hemisphere, but cranial nerve 3 and 4. 3 is oculomotor, 4 is trochlear. So these are found on the midbrain. But trigeminal, abducent, facial means 5, 6 and 7 are found in the pole. So the last 5 are found in the middle oblongata, like cranial nerve 8, cranial nerve 9, cranial nerve 10 vagus, cranial nerve 11 and cranial nerve 12 is found on the middle oblongata. Cranial nerve 1 and cranial nerve 2 are attached to the cerebrum. So let me show you. This is the ventral view, this is the lateral view. So in this way, this is Diencephalon, thalamus, this is hypothalamus, this is mammary body. So as we have mentioned, this is optic nerve, this is optic chiasma, this is tract nervus, optic tract. So this is found on the cerebrum. So but the third oculomotor nerve and trochlear nerve, this is oculomotor nerve, the roots of oculomotor nerve, this is trochlear nerve 4, cranial nerve 3 and 4 are this one. So this is paired. So these nerves are found on the midbrain, and this is middle cerebral peduncle that is connects and communicates information with cerebellum, and this is abducent nerve, cranial nerve 6. This is cranial nerve 6. This is paired, cranial nerve 6, and this is vestibulocochlear nerve. This is the roots of vestibulocochlear nerve, cranial nerve 8, and this is pyramids, and the other is ventral root of first cervical nerve is this one. The decussation of pyramids is this one. In this area, pyramids are decussate on this area. This means the left side of hemisphere is crosses just like this, and the right one is crosses just like this. So the right side of cerebral hemisphere controls the left side of the body, and the left side of the body controls the right side of the body. So this is spinal cord, and this is accessory nerve, cranial nerve 11. This is its pairs, and this is vagus nerve. This one is vagus nerve, cranial nerve 10. This one is pairs. This is hypoglossal nerve, cranial nerve 12. This is its pairs. Glossopharyngeal nerve is 9. This is glossopharyngeal nerve. This one is its pair, and this one is facial nerve, cranial nerve 7. Abducent is this one, and this is pons. This is trigeminal. This and this one is trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal nerve means cranial nerve 5. This is the largest nerve in the cranial nerves. So this one is midbrain, as we have seen. So this is the superior cerebral peduncle, middle and inferior cerebral peduncle. These are connected with cerebellum to the cerebellum, to pons, to midbrain, pons, and middle oblongata respectively. So this is inferior colliculus, this is superior colliculus nucleus. So this is thalamus. Okay, thalamus. This is olive area of the middle oblongata. So this is all about the pons. I mean the brainstem visualization. So brainstem divide into 3: midbrain, pon, and middle oblongata. Midbrain is the smallest part of the brainstem, found just superior to the pons. We have seen it connects pons and cerebrum to the forebrain. It's right. The cavity of the midbrain is represented by narrow canal. This narrow canal is called cerebral aqueduct. By the way, cerebral aqueduct means conduct cerebrospinal fluid from the third ventricle to fourth ventricle. The canal between third and fourth ventricle is known as cerebral aqueduct. This cerebral aqueduct is found on the midbrain. How I show you. This is cerebral aqueduct is in this area. This is cerebral aqueduct. Cerebral aqueduct connects the third ventricle with fourth ventricle. This is cerebral aqueduct, which is found on the midbrain. So The pons lies anterior part of the posterior cranial fossa in front of the cerebellum. It extends from medulla oblongata to the midbrain. So the cavity in pons forms a part of fourth ventricle. Yes, because fourth ventricle is formed between three parts. Inferiorly medulla oblongata, anteriorly pons, posteriorly cerebellum. So fourth ventricle is found between pons and cerebellum. Medulla oblongata. Most inferior portion of the brainstem is medulla oblongata. So in the posterior cranial fossa and continues with spinal cord at the foramen magnum. Foramen magnum is boundary to separate medulla oblongata from spinal cord. It's a continuation of spinal cord from below to above. Medulla oblongata contains nucleuses that regulate cardiovascular and respiratory functions. It's a center for, it is known as cardiovascular and respiratory center. It controls our heartbeat and our respiratory rate, okay? Our breathing. It controls our breathing. So cerebellum. In Latin, cerebellum means little brain. It lies posterior to pons and medulla oblongata and extends laterally. It is separated from pons and medulla by the cavity of fourth ventricle. Yeah, we have seen it, this one. It is covered superiorly by tentorium cerebelli that separates from occipital lobe of cerebrum. So tentorium cerebelli is separated cerebellum from occipital lobe of cerebrum from occipital lobe of cerebrum. The cerebellum consists of two cerebral hemispheres joined by narrow median vermis. So there is also cerebral hemisphere, left and right cerebral hemisphere. Cerebellum has fissure, primary fissure, V-shaped and horizontal fissure. So this is cerebellum. This is pons anteriorly. This is cerebellum posteriorly. This is medulla oblongata anteriorly and inferiorly. So this is the fourth ventricle. This is cerebral aqueduct. So this is a pathway for cerebrospinal fluid movement. Okay, cerebrospinal fluid movement. So this is cerebral cortex. This is known as folia. This tree-like branch or tree-like lines are known as arbor vitae. This is anterior lobe. This is posterior lobe. So each lines are known as arbor vitae. This one is cerebral cortex. This is anterior lobe. This one is posterior lobe. Choroid plexus of fourth ventricle is found on this area. This is fourth ventricle. So cerebral peduncles. This is the superior cerebral peduncle. This is middle. This is inferior. This is middle. This is superior cerebral peduncle. These are cut sections which connects to the midbrain, cerebellum, which connects just like this. This is medulla oblongata. This is folliculonodular lobe. Folliculonodular lobe is this one, posterior lobe, anterior lobe. Structure: the cerebellum consists of grey matter, cortex, and white matter. Deep grey matter is a cortex, so that outer. White matter is deep, so it contains nuclei in each matter. Cerebral cortex. The cerebellum is linked to the three parts of CNS. Superior cerebral peduncle connects cerebellum to the midbrain. Inferior cerebral peduncle connects cerebellum to the medulla oblongata. Middle cerebral peduncle connects cerebellum with pons. Each hemisphere exhibits parallel folds called folia. The fold is known as folia. Each fold is known as folia. This middle, superior, inferior cerebral peduncle connects the pons, midbrain, and medulla oblongata. The function of cerebellum is coordinating skill movement. Okay, experienced movement, skilled movement, a movement which have more experiences or more repeatedly done. So coordinates skilled movement and regulates posture and balance. So cerebellum is having function just like this. This is horizontal fissure. This is primary fissure. This one is vermis. This is posterior view. This is also posterior view. In this area there is deep cerebral nuclei. This one is arbor vitae, white matter of cerebellum. This is cerebral cortex. The outer one is cerebral cortex. The inner white one is medulla. Now we have starting ventricles in the brain. The brain has 4 internal chambers called ventricles, fluid filled cavities in the brain, and central canal of spinal cord. So ventricles means a cavity which is filled by fluid. In the brain, but central canal in the spinal cord. So we do have the first one is lateral ventricle. In one cerebral hemisphere is one ventricle, and the other is one. So 1 and 2 ventricles, lateral ventricle 1 and lateral ventricle 2 is found on the cerebral hemisphere, connected through the third ventricle by interventricular foramen. So this is the ventricles of the brain. This is lateral ventricle. By the way, this is inferior horn. This is superior horn. So 2 lateral ventricles found in this area on the cerebral hemisphere. So this one is third ventricle. This is a channel. This is known as cerebral aqueduct. This one is fourth ventricle. So fourth ventricle found on this area, cerebral aqueduct in the midbrain, third ventricle in the diencephalon, lateral ventricle on the cerebral hemisphere. This is anterior view. Posterior view seems like this. This is lateral ventricle. This is third ventricle. This is inferior horn or lateral ventricle. This is cerebral aqueduct. This is fourth ventricle. This is central canal of spinal cord. Okay, it continues to the spinal cord. This is central cerebrospinal fluid pathway. So this one is interventricular foramen. Interventricular foramen means a foramen which connects a tube which connects lateral ventricle with the third ventricle. The other is the third ventricle. The third ventricle is found in the diencephalons. The cerebral aqueduct connects third ventricle to fourth ventricle. So this is the cerebral aqueduct connects third ventricle to fourth ventricle. The other is fourth ventricle, found on the base of cerebellum. The posterior surface of medulla oblongata, found on the base of cerebellum, on the posterior surface of medulla oblongata, and pons anterior to the cerebellum. So in general, fourth ventricle is found between pons, medulla oblongata, and cerebellum. It contains with central canal of spine. It continues with central canal of spinal cord. Fourth ventricle is continues with the spinal cord. So as we have mentioned, this is lateral ventricle, and and also this one is third ventricle. Diencephalon. This one is central canal, midbrain. This one is fourth ventricle. So produced in the lateral ventricle and moves just like this. The cerebrospinal fluid moves just like this, and it will go on the other way, and it will also go in the. It will goes into spinal cord, and it goes into the outer surface of the brain to wash the brain. So this is a pathway. So pathway is from lateral ventricle, produced from choroid plexus of lateral ventricle, then moving to the lateral ventricle through interventricular foramen, moving to the third ventricle, then from the third ventricle move by cerebral aqueduct, moving to fourth ventricle, then some are goes into spinal cord, some are moving to the surface through the meninges. So circulation of cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid is a colorless fluid which fills the ventricles and canals of CNS. Ventricles means in the brain, canals means in the spinal cord. Protects from mechanical injury, bases external surface of the brain, remove metabolic waste from the nervous tissue. This is the function of cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid formed by choroid plexus in the ventricles, mostly in the lateral ventricle, and it's secreted by ependymal cells covering the choroid plexus in the lateral ventricles. So choroid plexus is in the lateral ventricle. Ependymal cells of choroid plexus secretes cerebrospinal fluid on each ventricle, mostly on the lateral ventricle. Then pass through interventricular foramina to reach the third ventricle. Then aqueduct of the midbrain reach fourth ventricle. So by cerebral aqueduct of the midbrain, cerebrospinal fluid moves from third ventricle to fourth ventricle. Then small amount passes into central canal of the spinal cord, but greater amount passes through the opening in the fourth ventricle, enter subarachnoid spaces, and reach arachnoid granulations and absorb arachnoid granulations absorb cerebrospinal fluid, reach the blood in the sinuses. So absorbed on this area and washes the brain, and it will move through the brain by arachnoid space. So this is the circulation of cerebrospinal fluid. The other is meninges. Meninges are the three connective tissue layers that surrounds and protects the brain and spinal cord. Meninges for the brain is known as cranial meninges. Meninges for spinal cord is spinal meninges. So cranial meninges consists of dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater. Cranial meninges have three layers. The outer is dura mater, then arachnoid mater, the inner one is pia mater. Pia mater. The space between these meninges, this layer, is known as space. The first one is epidural space, the second is subdural space, the third is subarachnoid space. The epidural space lies between dura mater and the bone, the subdural space lies between the dura mater and arachnoid mater, and subarachnoid space lies between arachnoid mater and pia mater, Subarachnoid space contains cerebrospinal fluid, blood vessels of the brain, some filaments connecting arachnoid and pia mater, This is meninges, cranial meninges. The same thing for spinal meninges also. So this is layers. This is dura mater. By the way, from outer to inner, this is scalp. This is skin of scalp. The next is periostem, the outer covering of the skull bone. The second is skull bone. This is skull bone. This is dura mater. Dura mater is divided into two: periosteal mater and meningeal mater. Then the other layer is the second mater is arachnoid mater. The third mater is known as pia mater. This one is known as arachnoid villus. This is blood vessels, vein and arteries, and this one is known as falcus cerebri. So this one is superior sagittal sinus. So this is subdural space. This is subarachnoid space. So we have maters, dura mater, arachnoid mater, pia mater. Between these maters there is space. This one is epidural space. This is subdural space, and this is subdural space. This is subarachnoid space. So in the subarachnoid space, this is subarachnoid space, which is found on the pia mater. So subarachnoid space. In the subarachnoid space, there is cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, there is cerebrospinal fluid here, subarachnoid space. This is taken from this one. to get the next sections or chapters and other courses, you don't forget to subscribe this channel. Okay. So peripheral nervous system is divided into two: afferent or sensory division and motor efferent division. Somatic sensory is general somatic sensory is touch, pain, pressure, vibration, temperature, and hearing, equilibrium, vision is spatial. Visual sensory is general one is touch, pain, temperature, chemical changes, whereas taste and smell is spatial. We have seen this one. And somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. Somatic is innervation for all skeletal muscles, motor innervation. Autonomic is motor innervation for smooth muscle and cardiac muscles and glands. Then autonomic is divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. This is we have seen later. There is communication between peripheral nervous system and central nervous system. Peripheral also divides sensory and motor. This is for peripheral nervous system. This is all about today's section. The next section we will start about we will see about the spinal cord and autonomic nervous system and embryologic development of the brain. So now we have stopped here. Thank you very much for your attention, and don't forget to subscribe this channel to get the next videos, the next courses, and have a nice time.